Kenya's elephant population is struggling to survive the long drought that hit the country amid its effects of climate change. Africa CDC conducted training for 15 West African health journalists on community engagement and risk communication strategies on vaccination against COVID-19. And the Ethiopian authorities heighten efforts to enhance wheat production to minimize imports. These and more coming your way on The World Today. This is Eyeafrica TV and you are watching The World Today News Bulletin coming to you live from our studios in Banjul. Many thanks for coming along. I am Amadou Kante and now the news in detail. Now, the devastating long drought in Kenya triggered by the effects of climate change is causing havoc among the country's elephant population. With some animals struggling to survive, the country's wildlife service officials are visiting different parks to render support to the affected animals, especially the elephants. The prolonged drought is not only affecting the wildlife sector, but other areas attracting tourists in this African country are also feeling the pinch. Let's have more details of that in this report.
In the Kenyan north, the impact of 4 failed consecutive rainy seasons have been devastating. In Samburu National Reserve, long periods of drought and extreme heat waves are affecting the strongest of animals, elephants. Monsoon, a female elephant, has collapsed, emaciated due to lack of food. Few moments after this 62-year-old elephant collapsed, a team from the Kenya Wildlife Service and members of the Save the Elephants organization arrived here to try and assist her stand up and continue with her journey. It is not the first time that this matriarch has collapsed in recent times. Monsoon is the matriarch of a famous elephant family found in this reserve. But today, she's battling hunger pangs alone. Her family has been forced to migrate in search of greener pasture.
So Monsoon is being actually in that bracket of where it is almost survival for the fittest and elimination for feet. So Monsoon is not actually coping up because, you know, she has to push down a big acacia tree to munch or to actually chew very tough, you know, branches. You know, I suspect her molars would be very weak or just completely worn out.
Adult elephants, which have no predators, roam widely to get their daily intake of as much as 52 gallons of water and about 300 kilograms of grass, leaves and twigs. But in this wilderness, water is disappearing and the grass is all but gone. The drought threatens the animals that bring millions of tourists to the Kenyan savannah each year.
This is the most devastating drought that I've seen because we have about 3 years or even more of no rains actually in this area.
In these lands, grazers are the most affected. Animals like buffaloes, viewed as one of the most dangerous animals in Africa, are moving closer to human settlements in search of food. The risk of human-wildlife conflict increases as resources become scarcer for all.
Back here in the Gambia, slaughter operators at the central abattoir in Abuko adopted manual operation since the mini-automated meat overhead rail system became dysfunctional so many years ago, leaving the operators with limited options to do their work. Manual operation reduces hygienic and waste management practices despite being highly necessary to minimize the harmful effects of abattoir waste. Moses Simendi tells us more of that in this report.
The spoilage of the semi-automated meat overhead rail system of the central abattoir in Abuko more than 5 years ago has forced butchers to adopt a manual operation mode, which on the other hand is termed physically demanding. It also minimizes hygienic and waste management practices at the slaughterhouse. With a functional overhead meat rail system, the animals are slaughtered and hoisted off the ground to the rail for flaying, eviscerating and splitting, but such has not been the case since the rail system got spoiled years ago. This has prompted all the processes to take place on the floor of the slaughterhouse, staining it with blood and animal feces. Madi Kuyate is the manager of the central abattoir in Abuko, and he shares how the mode of operation at the slaughterhouse changed.
This abattoir was built since 1978 or so. Since then, when it started, almost all the facilities were automated or semi-automated. But as I am talking to you today, everything in the abattoir is manual. Everything is manual. The slaughtering is manual, the flaying is manual, the rails are not working, you see. So at least now, and government is aware that these things are happening. So the best that they could do is to make sure that we have a sort of abattoir that can be ranked with other developing countries as how they are operating. And government is on the track.
He revealed a government plan to build a state-of-the-art abattoir in the Gambia, and also highlighted the increased number of unregistered slaughter operators using the slaughterhouse as a challenge. Tijan Jai, the chief butcher at the abattoir and one of the longest-serving operators, shared his experience on the usual work routine since he began working at the abattoir in 1994.
Usually what we do with the rail is that after slaughtering the animal, we clip the hind limbs and the rail will lift it up, and the two people standing overhead will push the carcass to the next level on the rail, where someone will eviscerate the animal and remove the inner organs, after which the person will forward it to this hall through the rail. Then we will unclip the animal from the rail and bring it down, then load it into the car.
Mr. Njai said they now apply manpower, which is very hard, while outlining heightened challenges as a result of power outages, lack of water supply to clean the once very tidy abattoir. Multiple failings in the slaughter process result in meat contamination and allow the transmission of diseases. The inadequate infrastructure and poor hygiene calls for the government's intervention to either upgrade the abattoir or construct a new one to prevent contamination of meat that eventually goes into the consumer market. Moses Imendi, Eyeafrica News.
Elsewhere in the continent, as the world continues to grapple with food insecurity, Ethiopian authorities have initiated measures to boost its agricultural production to mitigate foreign dependency. This African nation has expanded its wheat farming activities with a view to meet up local demand and export reserves to neighboring countries. Bakeries and restaurant owners have welcomed the initiative, which have helped them to get enough supply. Here's more details of that in this report.
A vast land area covered with wheat soon to be harvested. This is the result of Ethiopia's scheme growing wheat in almost all its regions to become self-sufficient and guarantee food security. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has launched an even bigger plan for wheat production in this Eastern African nation. Bakeries and restaurants across Ethiopia are reportedly getting a better supply of wheat and flour thanks to the massive production of the grain across the country.
More than any other time, we get the surplus amount of wheat in this country. Over the last few years, it was difficult to get it for our bakery, but in recent times, that is all becoming better and better. I believe it's because of the wheat we are growing locally.
Ethiopia has given a high priority to the production of wheat to substitute imports. The government did not import wheat last year and was able to harvest 2.5 million tons. The Minister of Agriculture predicts Ethiopia can export up to 3 million metric tons of wheat to its neighbors.
Local consumption,
if our local consumption together with our reserve takes up to 107 million tons of wheat, the amount of surplus wheat we have is obviously huge. So if we can export at least 50% of that surplus, we can export from 2.5 million to 3 million metric tons of wheat.
3 million.
Ethiopia and Kenya have already signed an agreement for the latter to import wheat come 2022.
This is Eyeafrica TV and you are watching the World Today News Bulletin coming to you live from our studios in Banjul, and from that agriculture-related report there from the Ethiopian capital Addis Ababa, we now take a break and come back shortly. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Welcome back, and you are watching the World Today News Bulletin on Eyeafrica TV. And once again, many thanks for joining us. And let's now look at the rest of the stories. Now, the Africa Center for Disease Control has just ended the training of 15 West African health journalists on community engagement and risk communication strategies on vaccination against COVID-19 in the capital city of Benin, Cotonou. Now, the training held from October 3rd to 7th is aimed at increasing the knowledge of the West African health reporters on health-related matters, particularly COVID-19 vaccination and ways and manners to eradicate vaccine hesitancy. Our very own Mafuji Sisi attended the training and he files in this report.
The 15 journalists from West Africa received training on community engagement and risk communication strategies on vaccination against COVID-19. Speaking to the West African Health Reporters, Advocacy and Communication Officer, Madam Lilian Bilogoho, says the training is important because her institution is with the intention to have 60% of the African citizenry reach collective immunity, adding that it's important to capacitate health journalists to communicate better.
The 15th country of the Western region, so Togo, Benin, Dakar, Senegal, Gambia, Liberia, Sierra Leone. I forgot a lot, but yeah. We're talking mostly about vaccination, COVID-19 vaccination, and how to counter misinformation and disinformation, specifically. Okay. It's important because Africa CDC, we have a vision to vaccinate like 70%, 60% of our population, to reach collective immunity. Okay, so this is important for Africa CDC to capacitate journalists to communicate better and improve. We are here to help. So anytime you have like needs, Africa CDC is here to help. Okay, so we have the tools. During the workshop, we're gonna show you the tools you need to have like scientific information and scientific response to misinformation.
This information understood as false information deliberately and spread in order to influence public opinion or obscure the truth, and infodemic, which refer to the rapid spread of information, both accurate and inaccurate, in the age of the internet and social media. Lead trainer Dr. Albert Maya Dibaya says these too can be dangerous.
Because if people doesn't get that information, they don't get a good decision for their own health. Maybe they can use the medicine or techniques that are not right, and they are putting their life in danger. it is very important to deconstruct misinformation, to give right information at the right time, to make sure that people can get the good things for their own life, and make sure that they will save their life for themselves and the people they love.
Dr. Amadou Cisse, Africa Center for Disease Control, highlighted that the Gambia and Sierra Leone are among the countries that objected against sharing COVID-19 data to the African Center for Disease Control for analysis, despite the number importance of data sharing for Africa CDC to countries determine the next step. He said failure to do so deters countries these opportunities. Vera Okeo, trainer, urged participants to know the health system of their countries, saying this will avail them to report on health care-related matters. Participants vow to use their pens to change the narrative in health reporting in their countries, particularly in COVID-19 related matters. It is the intention of the Africa CDC to have every African citizenry vaccinated against the deadly COVID-19. COVID-19 outbreak has shaken health systems around the world, including that of developed countries, and Africa, having been characterized by the worst health care system, is not an exception to this. The Gambia, Sierra Leone, Liberia, Senegal, Nigeria, Togo, and Benin are the countries that benefited from this training. Mafuji Cisse, Eyeafrica News, reporting from Cotonou, Benin.
And from that report there by Mafuji Cisse, and of course let's stay with some health matters, this time though in the North African region, because the WHO Director General has joined other health officials, including WHO Regional Director for the Eastern Mediterranean, for the inauguration of the 69th session of the WHO Regional Committee in the Egyptian capital, Cairo. The first physical meeting since the outbreak of the COVID-19 began with health officials performing exercises that are geared towards promoting a healthy life for all. The theme for this year's session is reaching the sustainable development goals in the post-COVID-19 age, accelerating universal health coverage and health security. The event was also attended by Ministers of Health and representatives of the region's member states. Let's have more details of that in this report.
The 69th session of the WHO's Regional Committee for the East Mediterranean started with health officials performing some exercises. It's an initiative that promotes a healthy life for all, led by all. A foundation officials say that will help in building a better and healthier future.
The World Health Organization's Director General joined the regional health ministers for a walk around Cairo's iconic Child's Park. Afterwards, Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus then led health officials to mark World Mental Health Day on October 10 by performing some aerobics moves.
Let's go. Let's stretch it out.
The message here is the importance of sport, not just for the physical health, but also for the mental health. And this is something that we all know, but unfortunately nobody's doing it properly as we expect.
The initiative is dubbed Walk the Talk, an invitation for everyone to participate. The event gave space for youth living in the region to share their opinions about health issues.
I'm very happy that during Walk the Talk they chose to include the youth because, for me this is an opportunity to really amplify the voices of, younger individuals. I think health is essential to generally the well-being of society and development as a whole, because if individuals aren't healthy, they cannot go and try to further develop infrastructure. They cannot help individuals around them.
This energetic event launches the WHO's 69th session for the East Mediterranean Regional Committee. It's the first in-person conference the organization's regional office holds since the COVID-19 pandemic broke out in 2019. Health experts from across the region will be shaping policies to minimize mortality rates from traffic accidents. They will discuss the impact of smoking on public health services. Egypt is also planning to present its success story in battling hepatitis C virus, a long journey that took the country from having the highest burden in the world to almost eradicating the disease entirely.
Quite very interesting there, and Drought health report there from the Egyptian capital, Cairo. will eventually bring this news edition to an end. But for more details on this and other stories, as always, as ever, you can visit on our website on Eyeafrica.tv. But for now, many thanks for the pleasure of your company. Thanks for watching. Stay safe and do have a pleasant evening. Bye for now.